The morning sun hadn't yet risen over Alpha Centauri Station when Jack Miller began his daily ritual of preparing his small coffee shop for another quiet day. His hands moved automatically through the familiar motions of checking his coffee machines, a habit he'd kept since his days back on Earth. He never expected to be running the only human coffee shop in an alien space station, but life had a funny way of working out. 5 years ago, when humans first joined the galactic community, Jack had taken a chance. He'd sold his small coffee shop in Portland, packed up his best equipment, and moved to humanity's first off-world colony. Most people thought he was crazy. Aliens don't drink coffee, they said. But Jack didn't care. He just wanted to bring a little piece of Earth's comfort to the stars. The shop was small, wedged between a Hoverian crystal merchant and what he thought was an alien pet store. The warm smell of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air, a scent that drew confused looks from passing aliens but brought smiles to the few human customers he served. That morning started like any other. Jack served his regular customers, mostly human station workers and a few curious aliens who developed a taste for hot chocolate. But everything changed when the tall, purple-skinned alien in an expensive-looking suit walked in. The alien's name was Ambassador Trill, though Jack wouldn't learn this until later. What he did notice was the way the ambassador's 4 eyes widened at the smell of brewing coffee, and how their skin seemed to shimmer with interest. "What is that scent?" the ambassador asked, their translator making the words sound crisp and clear. "I've traveled to 3,000 worlds, but I've never encountered anything like it." Jack smiled, already reaching for his best beans. "That's coffee, Ambassador, Earth's favorite morning drink. Would you like to try some?" The ambassador's skin rippled with colors, a sign Jack had learned meant excitement in their species. "Yes, please. Prepare it in your traditional way." Jack took his time, treating the ambassador to his signature drink, a perfectly crafted pour-over coffee made with single-origin Ethiopian beans. He explained each step as he worked, noting how the ambassador's colors shifted between deep purple and bright blue with fascination. The moment the ambassador took their first sip, everything changed. Their skin exploded into a rainbow of colors Jack had never seen before. All 4 eyes closed in what appeared to be pure bliss, and a soft humming sound filled the air. "By the ancient stars," the ambassador whispered after a long moment. This is extraordinary. The complexity of flavors, the way it affects my sensory nodes. And there's something else. A feeling of alertness." Jack nodded, trying to hide his growing excitement. "That would be the caffeine. It's a natural stimulant found in coffee beans." The ambassador took another sip, their skin now pulsing with patterns Jack had never seen before. "In all my years as the Galactic Food Critics Guild's senior member, I have never encountered anything like this. The chemical composition must be unique to your world." Jack's heart skipped a beat. Standing before him wasn't just any alien. This was one of the most influential food critics in the galaxy. Before he could respond, the ambassador had already pulled out a communication device. "Central Guild, priority message." They spoke rapidly. "I've discovered something extraordinary. Prepare for an emergency session." And they turned to Jack. "Would you be willing to prepare a demonstration for the guild? With proper compensation, of course." Jack looked around his small shop, at the carefully maintained equipment he brought from Earth, at the pictures of coffee farms he'd visited back home, at the handful of regular customers watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. He thought about all the mornings he'd spent here, wondering if he'd made a mistake moving to the stars. "I would be honored," he said, already wondering what he'd just gotten himself into. The ambassador's skin settled into a deep, satisfied gold. "Excellent, I believe, Mr. Miller, Jack Miller. Mr. Miller, I believe you've just changed galactic gastronomy forever." As the ambassador left, already speaking rapidly into their communication device, Jack stood behind his counter, trying to process what had just happened. He had a feeling his quiet days of running a small coffee shop were about to end. He didn't know then that this was just the beginning, that soon his simple coffee shop would become the center of a galactic revolution, or that Earth's humble coffee beans would soon become the most sought-after substance in the known universe. 3 days after Ambassador Trill's visit, Jack's small coffee shop had become the busiest spot on Alpha Centauri Station. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors formed lines that stretched through the station's corridors. Some waited for hours just to taste what they now called human nectar. Jack hadn't slept much. His hands were sore from grinding beans and operating his coffee machines nonstop. He'd already called Earth twice to order more supplies, and his sister was busy packing up everything from his old Portland shop to ship to the station. "I need 6 more of the dark liquid," a tall, crystal-like alien called out, its voice chiming like bells. "My entire diplomatic team must try this." "2 more espressos for the Nebula news crew," shouted another customer, their tentacles waving excitedly in the air. Jack worked as fast as he could, but he knew he couldn't keep up with the demand forever. His small shop wasn't built for this kind of traffic. Even worse, he'd spotted several aliens trying to secretly scan his coffee beans with strange devices when they thought he wasn't looking. That afternoon, a group of official-looking aliens in matching gray uniforms entered the shop. Their leader, a stern-faced being with metallic skin, walked straight to the counter, ignoring the long line of waiting customers. "Mr. Miller," the metallic alien said, their voice cold and formal. "I am Director Gray of the Galactic Trade Commission. We need to discuss your operation here." Jack's stomach tightened. He'd heard about the Trade Commission. They controlled all major commerce between species. "Can it wait? As you can see, I'm a bit busy." "I'm afraid not." Director Gray's eyes narrowed. "You are selling an unregistered psychoactive substance to multiple species without proper permits or safety testing. This is a serious violation of galactic law." The busy shop fell silent. Jack felt hundreds of eyes turning to watch the confrontation. "It's just coffee," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Humans have been drinking it for thousands of years. A substance that affects brain chemistry and causes behavioral changes in multiple species." Director Gray pulled out a holographic document. "According to our preliminary scans, this coffee contains compounds never before documented in galactic trade. It must be properly studied, regulated, and," they paused meaningfully, "appropriately priced." Just then, Ambassador Trill burst through the door, their purple skin flashing with angry patterns. "Director Gray, I thought I might find you here, trying to interfere." The metallic alien turned slowly. "This is a trade commission matter, Ambassador. It doesn't concern the Critics Guild." "Doesn't it?" Trill moved to stand beside Jack. "The Guild has already classified Earth coffee as a cultural beverage art form. Any attempt to regulate it falls under our jurisdiction first." Director Gray's metallic face showed no emotion, but their voice carried a hint of frustration. "The safety of billions of beings has already been assured through our testing," Trill interrupted. "Or did you forget that the Guild employs the galaxy's leading xenobiologists?" The two aliens stared at each other while Jack watched nervously. Finally, Director Gray stepped back. "This isn't over. The Commission will be watching very carefully." They turned and left, their gray-uniformed group following behind. After they left, Ambassador Trill turned to Jack. "You need to be careful. The Trade Commission doesn't like anything they can't control, and your coffee has become too popular too quickly." "What should I do?" Jack asked, looking around at his overwhelmed shop. "Expand. Legally, before they find a way to stop you." Trill's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. "The Guild will help. We're already receiving reports of a black market for Earth coffee forming in the outer systems. If we don't act fast, the Trade Commission will use that as an excuse to take control." Jack nodded slowly, his mind racing. He'd wanted to bring a taste of Earth to the stars, but he never imagined it would become this complicated. As he looked at the line of eager aliens still waiting to try their first cup of coffee, he realized his simple dream of running a quiet coffee shop was gone forever. In its place was something bigger, something that could either bring humans and aliens closer together or cause chaos across the galaxy. And somehow, he, Jack Miller, was caught right in the middle of it all. 2 weeks had passed since Director Gray's visit, and things had only gotten more complicated. Jack stood in his newly expanded shop, watching the holoscreen news reports with growing concern. The images showed alien customs officers confiscating what looked like coffee beans from smugglers near the outer rim. "Third bust this week," said a quiet voice beside him. Jack turned to find Blue, an alien customs officer who had become one of his regular customers. Unlike most of their species, Blue's crystalline body had a gentle azure tint, which had earned them their nickname among humans. "How bad is it getting?" Jack asked, pouring Blue their usual drink, a triple-shot espresso that made their crystal form glow brightly. Blue's surface dimmed slightly. "Worse than you know. They're not just smuggling coffee anymore. Tea, chocolate, even those energy drinks humans love. Anything from Earth that contains your unique compounds. Some criminals are even trying to make fake versions in secret labs." Jack's heart sank. He'd been working with Ambassador Trill to set up legal distribution channels, but the demand was growing faster than they could handle. Every day, more aliens discovered the joys of human beverages, and the black market prices kept climbing higher. "Yesterday," Blue continued, their voice dropping to a whisper, "my team found a warehouse full of something labeled premium Earth coffee. It was just brown-colored water with dangerous stimulants mixed in. 3 aliens ended up in medical care." Before Jack could respond, his shop's communication system buzzed. A holographic message appeared, showing Ambassador Trill's face. Their purple skin was rippling with worried patterns. "Jack, turn on Channel 7 now," Trill said urgently. "The Trade Commission is making their move." Jack switched the holoscreen, and his blood ran cold. Director Gray stood at a podium, their metallic skin gleaming under the lights as they addressed a crowd of reporters. Due to the increasing health and safety concerns, Director Gray announced, the Galactic Trade Commission is implementing immediate controls on all Earth-origin beverages. These substances will now be classified as restricted compounds, requiring special licenses for transport and sale. The crowd of alien reporters erupted with questions. Jack watched in horror as Director Gray explained the new regulations, licenses that would cost millions of credits, testing requirements that would take months to complete, and restrictions that would make it nearly impossible for small businesses like his to operate. "They can't do this," Jack muttered, but Blue shook their head sadly. "They've been planning this for weeks. The black market gave them the excuse they needed." Just then, Jack's private communication device buzzed. It was a message from someone he didn't know, marked urgent. When he opened it, his eyes widened. The message contained pictures of secret Trade Commission documents, showing something much bigger than just regulation. "Blue," Jack said slowly, "look at this. They're not just trying to control the trade. They're planning to claim Earth's coffee plants as a galactic resource. They want to take over production completely." Blue's crystalline form pulsed with shock. "That's illegal under at least 6 different galactic treaties. Earth has exclusive rights to its native species." Jack looked around his shop, at the hundreds of aliens enjoying their drinks, at the news reports still playing on the holoscreen, at the worried faces of his human staff. He thought about all the farmers back on Earth who had grown these beans for generations. "We need to stop them," he said firmly. "But we'll need help." Blue's form brightened slightly. "The Customs Authority won't support an illegal takeover, and I know others who would stand with Earth on this. Get me a secure line to Ambassador Trill," Jack said, a plan forming in his mind. "If the Trade Commission wants a fight, we'll give them one, but we'll do it the right way." As he worked his coffee machine, serving another group of eager customers, Jack realized that this had become about much more than just selling coffee. It was about protecting Earth's culture, about fighting for what was right. And somehow, a simple coffee shop owner had ended up on the front lines of a galactic trade war. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Culinary Federation sparkled under thousands of floating lights. Jack stood nervously behind his competition station, surrounded by the most famous alien chefs from across the galaxy. He never thought he'd end up here, competing in the first-ever cross-species beverage championship. Ambassador Trill had insisted he participate. "We need to prove that real Earth drinks can't be copied," they had told him. "This competition is our chance to show everyone why the Trade Commission's plans won't work." Jack looked across the hall where Director Gray sat in the judges' section, their metallic skin reflecting the lights. Next to his station, an alien chef with 8 arms was already setting up complex machinery that looked more suited to a science lab than a kitchen. "They're trying to make fake coffee," Blue whispered, now acting as Jack's assistant for the competition. Their crystalline form glowed softly with concern. "I counted at least 6 competitors with synthetic coffee substitutes." Jack nodded, checking his simple equipment one last time. His best coffee grinder, a perfect pour-over set, and a small espresso machine. Most importantly, he had brought his secret weapon: coffee beans grown in his family's farm back in Hawaii, carefully aged and roasted just for this event. The competition began with a loud chime. Around Jack, alien chefs started working with strange machines and colorful chemicals. Some created clouds of glowing vapor, while others produced liquids that changed colors and sparked with energy. Jack ignored them all, focusing on his craft. He carefully ground the beans, letting the rich aroma fill his space. Several alien spectators nearby swayed in response to the smell, their sensory organs clearly affected by just the fragrance. Contestant Miller, a judge, floated over to his station. "Your competitors are using advanced molecular gastronomy. Are you sure you wish to proceed with such primitive methods?" Jack smiled, continuing his careful pour-over technique. "Sometimes the simplest methods are the best. Earth's coffee doesn't need fancy technology. It just needs respect for the tradition." As he worked, he noticed something interesting. The artificial coffee makers were running into problems. The 8-armed chef's machine was producing bitter smoke, and another competitor's attempt at synthetic coffee had turned into an undrinkable gel. "Time's up." The announcement rang through the hall. "Judges will now taste each entry." Jack watched as the panel of alien judges moved from station to station. Many of them made strange faces or quickly put down their cups after tasting the synthetic attempts. When they reached Jack's station, he served them each a perfect cup of his Hawaiian coffee. The moment the first judge tasted it, the hall went quiet. The alien's skin began to glow with pure pleasure, and they made a sound that seemed like a song. Each judge had a similar reaction, their bodies responding to the real coffee in ways the synthetic versions couldn't match. Director Gray tasted last, their metallic face impossible to read. But Jack noticed their hands trembling slightly as they set down the cup. "The results are clear," the head judge announced. "While many attempts were made to recreate Earth's coffee, none came close to the real thing. The molecular structure of Earth-grown coffee beans, combined with the specific conditions of Earth's soil and climate, creates something that cannot be artificially duplicated." The hall erupted in applause. Jack felt relief wash over him, but it was short-lived. He saw Director Gray leaving quickly, speaking into a communication device. "This isn't over," Blue said quietly. "The Trade Commission won't give up just because they can't copy coffee. They'll try something else." "Let them try," Jack replied, starting to clean his equipment. "We've proved that Earth's drinks are unique. They can't just take over production and expect the same results." As aliens crowded around his station, eager to taste the winning coffee, Jack knew Blue was right. This victory was important, but it was just one battle in a bigger war. The Trade Commission would be back with new plans, new schemes to control Earth's precious drinks. But for now, he let himself enjoy the moment, serving cup after cup of real Earth coffee to appreciative aliens, watching their bodies glow and shimmer with joy at each sip. Sometimes the simple things really were the most powerful. 3 days after winning the competition, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. His coffee shop on Alpha Centauri Station was unusually quiet. Too quiet. Even his regular customers had stopped coming. Blue arrived just before closing time, their crystal form dulled with worry. "You need to see this," they said, placing a small device on the counter. A hologram appeared, showing a trade commission document marked classified. Jack's eyes widened as he read. The document detailed plans to declare coffee and other Earth beverages as critical galactic resources, a legal designation that would give the Commission complete control over their production and distribution. "There's more," Blue said, changing the display. "They're already building massive greenhouses on 3 different planets. They're planning to steal coffee plant samples from Earth." Jack felt sick. "But we proved at the competition that coffee needs Earth's specific conditions to be right. They can't just grow it anywhere." "They know that." Blue's form flickered with anger. "Look at the soil analysis reports. They'd been secretly taking samples from every major coffee-growing region on Earth. They're trying to recreate exact copies of Earth's coffee-growing conditions." The shop's door chimed. Ambassador Trill rushed in, their purple skin almost black with distress. "Jack, the Commission just announced emergency trade restrictions. All Earth beverage exports are suspended pending safety reviews." Jack's communication device buzzed with messages from his suppliers back on Earth. Orders were being canceled. Ships were being turned away from ports. The Commission was shutting everything down. "This isn't about safety," Jack said, his voice hard. "They're creating a crisis so they can step in with their own production." Just then, Director Gray walked into the shop, flanked by 2 security drones. Their metallic face showed something almost like satisfaction. "Mr. Miller," they said smoothly, "I trust you've heard the news. Unfortunately, we've discovered some concerning health effects from Earth beverages. Nothing serious, just enough to require a complete review of all products. It could take years." "You're lying." Jack stood up straight. "This is about control. You want to force everyone to buy from your fake farms." Director Gray's face didn't change, but their voice grew colder. "The Trade Commission ensures stable commerce across the galaxy. We can't have one small planet controlling such a vital resource. Think of the bigger picture." "The bigger picture?" Ambassador Trill stepped forward, their skin flashing angry colors. "You mean your profit margins? The Guild has data proving Earth beverages are completely safe. We've been drinking them for months." "The Commission's decision is final," Director Gray said. "Unless." "Unless what?" Jack asked, though he already knew what was coming. "Unless you agree to sell your business to the Commission. Your expertise would be valuable to our new production facilities. We would make it worth your while." Jack looked around his small shop. At the coffee machines he brought from Earth. At the pictures of coffee farms passed down through generations. At Blue and Ambassador Trill, who had stood by him through everything. "No," he said simply. Director Gray's metallic face finally showed emotion. A flash of anger. "Don't be foolish. You can't fight the Commission. We control all major trade routes. Your Earth beverages will never reach the galaxy without our approval." Jack smiled. "Maybe. But we've already proven you can't copy our drinks. And I don't think the galaxy's people will be happy when they learn you're trying to steal Earth's heritage." "Is that a threat?" Director Gray asked quietly. "No, it's a promise." Jack held up Blue's device. "Everything you've just said has been transmitted live to the Galactic News Network. The whole galaxy is watching." Director Gray's head snapped around. Sure enough, a small news drone was hovering outside the shop's window, broadcasting everything. "This isn't over," Director Gray snarled, turning to leave. "The Commission doesn't forgive defiance." After they left, Jack sat heavily in a chair. "They'll come back with something bigger." "Yes," Ambassador Trill agreed. "But now we have proof of their real plans, and we won't be fighting alone anymore." Jack nodded, already thinking about what came next. The Trade Commission had just declared war on Earth's drinks, but they were about to learn that humans didn't give up their coffee without a fight. The Galactic Senate chamber was packed with beings from 1,000 worlds. Jack stood at the center of it all, surrounded by Earth's finest drink makers, coffee roasters, tea masters, and chocolate crafters who had traveled across the stars to stand with him. Behind them sat rows of alien supporters, their bodies glowing, shimmering, and pulsing with various colors of excitement and concern. The past week had been a blur of activity. After the Trade Commission's plans were exposed, Earth's government had finally taken action. They demanded an emergency Senate hearing to protect their planet's rights. The evidence Blue had collected spread across the galaxy, causing outrage among aliens who had grown to love Earth's drinks. Director Gray stood on the opposite platform. Their metallic skin dulled under the Senate's bright lights. Behind them, a team of Trade Commission lawyers shuffled through holographic documents. "Honorable Senators," Director Gray began, their voice echoing through the vast chamber. "The Trade Commission acts only to ensure stability and safety. Earth's beverages have become too important to leave in the hands of small, unregulated producers." A massive alien senator with glowing tentacles raised 3 of their limbs. "Yet our research shows that your attempt to reproduce these beverages on other worlds has failed completely. How do you explain this?" "We simply need more time and resources," Director Gray replied smoothly. "With full control over production, we can standardize and improve." "Improve?" Jack stepped forward, his voice stronger than he felt. "You can't improve something you don't understand. Our drinks aren't just products. They're part of Earth's soul." Jack pulled out a handful of coffee beans, holding them up for all to see. "These beans were grown on my family's farm in Hawaii. The soil there was enriched by ancient volcanoes. The rain that waters them falls in patterns that have existed for millions of years. The farmers who tend them use knowledge passed down through generations." He turned slowly, making eye contact with different senators. "You can't copy that in some artificial greenhouse. Earth's drinks are special because they come from Earth, from our history, our culture, our planet itself." Ambassador Trill floated forward. "The Critics Guild supports Earth's position. Our studies show that attempts to replicate Earth beverages destroy the very qualities that make them unique." Blue stepped up next, their crystal form glowing brightly. "And the Customs Authority has evidence that the Commission's restrictions have only fueled a dangerous black market. Legal, regulated trade with Earth is the only solution." Director Gray's face showed a flash of anger. "The Commission will not allow a single planet to hold such power over galactic trade. If Earth won't cooperate, we'll find other ways." "Are you threatening Earth?" A deep voice boomed through the chamber. An ancient senator, their body made of swirling gas, moved forward. "The Commission exists to facilitate trade, not control it, not steal it." More senators began to speak up, stories of their first taste of coffee, of healing teas, of the joy of chocolate. Stories of friendships formed in Earth beverage shops, of cultural barriers broken down over shared drinks. Jack watched as Director Gray's confidence crumbled. The Trade Commission's power was strong, but they had underestimated something important. The simple pleasure of sharing a good drink had created bonds stronger than any regulation. "I propose an immediate vote," the gas-formed senator announced, "on establishing Earth's sovereign right to its native beverages and creating a new framework for fair, direct trade." The vote passed overwhelmingly. Director Gray and their team left the chamber in defeat, but Jack knew the Trade Commission wouldn't give up easily. They would find other ways to try controlling the trade. But for now, they had won. As the Senate chamber erupted in celebration, Jack felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find a group of alien senators looking at him hopefully. "Mr. Miller," one asked, their skin changing colors with excitement, "we hear you make something called a caramel macchiato." Jack laughed, feeling the tension of the past weeks finally breaking. "Come on," he said, "I know a little shop not far from here. First round's on me." As they left the Senate chamber, Jack realized that Earth's drinks had done something amazing. They had brought different species together, created understanding, and shown that sometimes the simplest pleasures could change the galaxy. 1 year had passed since the Senate hearing, and Jack could hardly recognize his little coffee shop anymore. The original store on Alpha Centauri Station had become the flagship of Earth Drinks Galaxy, a chain of authentic human beverage shops that now spanned 17 different worlds. The shop was busy as always, but today felt special. Jack stood behind the counter, preparing drinks alongside his staff, a mix of humans and aliens who had mastered the art of Earth beverages. Blue sat at their usual spot, their crystalline form glowing brightly as they sipped their morning espresso. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Blue said, watching Jack serve a perfect cappuccino to a gaseous alien who absorbed the drink through their outer membrane with obvious pleasure. Jack nodded, looking at the wall of photographs behind the counter. Images showed the opening of new shops across the galaxy, Earth farmers teaching alien agriculture students about coffee growing, and the signing of the Earth Beverage Protection Act that had finally secured their rights. The Trade Commission had changed too. After Director Gray's removal, the new leadership had worked with Earth to establish fair trade routes. The black market had mostly disappeared now that legal supplies were flowing freely. Ambassador Trill floated into the shop, their purple skin showing excited patterns. "Jack, the Critics Guild just finished their annual galaxy-wide beverage survey. Earth drinks now rank as the most beloved beverages in 5 different sectors." Jack smiled, but before he could respond, his attention was caught by something unusual. A small alien child, belonging to a species he'd never seen before, approached the counter. Their skin seemed to be made of flowing water, contained within a translucent membrane. "Can I help you?" Jack asked kindly. The child held up a small, glowing crystal. "My people live in the far rings. We heard stories about Earth drinks, but we've never tasted them. I saved my allowance for 6 months to come here." Jack felt touched. He carefully prepared a small hot chocolate, adding a little extra whipped cream on top. "This one's on the house," he said, placing it before the child. The moment the young alien tasted the drink, their watery form lit up with rainbow colors. The sight caught everyone's attention, even the regular customers who had seen countless reactions to Earth drinks. "That's new," Blue said quietly, their crystal form pulsing with interest. "I've never seen colors like that before." The child looked up at Jack with wide eyes. "It tastes like happiness and warmth, and something else, something I've never experienced before." Ambassador Trill moved closer, their skin showing patterns of scientific curiosity. "Young one, what is that something else you taste?" The child thought for a moment. "It's like stories." "Yes, like all the stories my grandmother tells, but in a flavor." Jack and Trill exchanged surprised looks. This was new. They had documented hundreds of species' reactions to Earth drinks, but never one that could taste stories. "Jack," Trill said excitedly, "do you realize what this means? There are still undiscovered ways that different species experience Earth drinks. We've only scratched the surface." The news spread quickly through the galaxy's scientific community. Research ships began studying the Far Ring species' unique reaction to Earth beverages. It turned out they could literally taste the history and emotions infused in drinks during their preparation. A week later, Jack received a message from Earth's government. They wanted him to lead a new project, exploring and documenting how different species across the galaxy experience Earth drinks. There might be more amazing discoveries waiting to be found. "So," Blue asked, watching Jack read the message, "will you do it?" Jack looked around his shop, at the happy customers, at his dedicated staff, at the wall of memories they'd created. He thought about that small alien child tasting stories in hot chocolate, and all the other mysteries still waiting to be discovered. "Yes," he said, already excited about the new adventure ahead. "But first, I need to make some coffee. After all, that's how this whole story started." He began grinding fresh beans, letting the familiar aroma fill the air. All around him, aliens of different species turned toward the smell, their bodies showing joy in countless different ways. Some things, Jack realized, were truly universal. And somewhere out there in the vast galaxy, there were still new ways to experience the simple pleasure of an Earth drink, just waiting to be discovered.